Hello everybody, welcome to Red Tool House. Today we're going to focus on trying to get our neglected blueberry patch kind of back up to par. And we're going to utilize gravity and a little bit of automation to help us do that. So come along and see what we've got going on. So quite a few years ago, Kelly and I planted this blueberry patch, and it was originally, 3 rows of 4, so it was 12 plants. And that may have been before I even started the YouTube channel. But we've kind of just neglected them, and the reason why is we've just had poor irrigation for the blueberries here in West Virginia. When we get to that June-July window, which is where we are right now, then the rain just slacks off enough that the blueberries just can't form well. Right now they're loaded with berries. But because it gets dry, they just kind of shrivel up. They don't get big and plump. And you know, the blueberries obviously need that regular, almost daily irrigation. I've attempted some irrigation in the past. The problem is, I'll turn you around here, you can kind of see where we are located. So my driveway is 90 feet long, so it's 90 feet to the closest hose bib, plus this distance, which is almost another 90 feet. So running a hose from that hose bib permanently is kind of a drag. Obviously I don't have infrastructure in to where I could bury irrigation out here, and that would be pretty intense. And just simple fact that even if I had enough hose to run here or wanted to do that, I'd rather not irrigate using the well. Hey, that's wear and tear on our pump, the electricity associated with that, and there's things that could go wrong. If there was a leak, I could end up running the well dry, or at least keeping it an issue where we wouldn't have the water we need for personal consumption. Well, one thing we don't have a shortage of around here is slope. So I think I'm going to try. I haven't really fully mapped this out in my head, so we'll see how this works out. But I think we're going to try to utilize a large water tank up on slope, running hose down the hill, and using some automation to be able to water this frequently. Eventually, it'd be nice to have rain catchment up there. I don't have any roof structures to do that, so right now we'll be transporting water, but we'll be transporting water that we pull out of the creek with solar energy, and that way we're not burning up a lot of electricity. The only thing we'll be burning up is diesel or gas to transport the water up there. Okay, so I think this is going to be a good spot. I cleared this off years ago when my boys were little, because this used to be a platform where the zip line would allow them to zip line all the way down to their playground area. So this has obviously seen better days, but we'll take that out, clean this up a little bit, get this autumn olive cut out of the way, and with some cinder blocks and even using some of these treated 4x4s that are still here, we'll make this a nice leveling spot and put the tank. The blueberry patch is right down there, so that's you can kind of see I don't know if it's picking up or not, but you can see my white trailer that's in front of the blueberry patch. So it's straight down. The only thing we need to do is just figure out a way to run that much hose and get that much hose. But let's get this demoed and put together first. I'll get the tank up here and get it set. All right, well, I think that's got her where we need to, leveled up, and obviously the outlet pointing downhill. And I'm going to throw those old rotted ratchet straps over the hill. But now we need to, I think next would be getting out all the hose, see if I've got enough hose to do what I want to do. And that will determine whether or not I go to a box store and buy more garden hose. But I think I've got enough, and we'll get that made up and lined out. And then, of course, got to put water in this. And that'll be the next trick, is getting water all the way up here, since I don't have any rain catchment this high. Okay, so I've gathered 250 feet of garden hose. And when I say gathered, I mean I've robbed. So don't tell anybody, but I've taken Kelly's garden hose for the garden watering. It's supposed to rain today anyway. But we'll see what length we actually need, and then may get some more permanent hose, so I'm not stealing hose from everywhere else. Could never have too much garden hose. Okay, so we'll start at the top and work our way down. So they make adapter kits for this, or you can just go PVC. So this is a PVC 2-inch, reduced down to 1.5 inches, then reduced down to 1.5 inches with a 3/4 threaded for the hose bib. Made several of these up, kind of keep them around different places, because I'm too cheap to make them all up for my tanks. Now what we'll want to do is make sure we leave some slack on the hose. Don't want to be jerking it tight that it causes a crimp, especially this cheap piece of junk hose I got from the box store. All right. Put our cap there. Let's run down off the hill. Good night. This first garden hose is an insult to garden hoses. Thing's got more twists and crimps in it. I don't think I'm going to even need 200 feet, much less 250. I have a feeling 150 is going to get me there. But this first 100 feet needs to be set on fire and replaced. Yeah, probably 75 feet would do it. Mud dauber's nest in the stupid spigot head. So I'm on my third water run. I wanted to go ahead and try to get this about half full, and I think I'm going to do that. But I actually had to take a break to service the hose bib on the barrel. It was an old one. It was one of those that you twist multiple times, and of course the throat's only about that big. So first water run I did, it's taking forever to get the water out of it. So I put a 45-degree ball valve on it, and it's flowing great now, as you can see. So it's only taken about 15 minutes to unload the tank into here. All right, so I decided to go ahead and swap those hoses out. I gave Kelly her garden hose back, and I bought two hoses. That first 100-foot hose had more holes in it than my underwear, so that wasn't going to work. So obviously I could just take this hose, hook it up to a splitter and soaker hoses, and be set. But every time I'd want to water, of course, I'd have to run up to the tank, turn the water on, wait however long, and turn it off. Well, we don't want to do that, so we're going to do some automation. So I'm going to first find a way to attach this RainPoint 2 zone right here, and then of course we'll talk about what that actually means. I think I'm just going to use some baling wire or some fence wire to tie that in so I can have a good spot for it. This section of the blueberry patch just grows the best poison ivy too. I mean, it's top-notch stuff. So we've had RainPoint on the channel before. They sponsored us before, and neat little greenhouse pump. In fact, my mom's using that right now. I gave it to her because her greenhouse setup was perfect. Big rain barrel outside, drop the pump in, solar timer, bang, pumps it in. They're going camping for a week now, and that thing will take care of watering all the plants in her greenhouse, no issues. So with this RainPoint, this is a 2-zone timer water valve. So basically it will open up the left or open up the right based on a timer, and the control unit is back at the house. And what's neat about this is this takes 4 AA batteries. It's connected via a Wi-Fi signal that's coming from the control unit tied into our Wi-Fi. Now obviously I can control it with my phone, although my phone's recording this right now. And I've tested this thing. It kicks on, kicks off, does everything, even at this range. I've brought it out here and tested it just to make sure before I proceeded to do all this stuff. So the range is great. Or the one thing I'm concerned about is the minimum amount of water pressure to get this to work. And I talked with a company. They said 7 psi is a minimum you need to make it function. I've had water valves like this in the past, and they needed a lot more psi to function. So hopefully that 7 will work, because I think we should be getting right at 7, maybe 8. And before we turn the water on, I'll get my pressure tester and we'll actually test that. But I can obviously come here and manually affect this as well. There, I just turned it on and hit the button to turn it back off. But now I can hook up my 2 soaker hoses, and while I don't necessarily need to turn on left and right, I can go ahead and hook 2 of them up and just turn them both on at the same time, or I can put my splitter on and have soaker hose take up top shelf and second soaker hose take up bottom shelf. Let me take you back to the house and show you the control unit. So I call this the control unit because it acts as the Wi-Fi hub, but it's really more of a command center and display. So, it's showing temperature, it's showing date and time, which have I said that? Yeah, it's actually correct. It's showing outside temperature, which I don't have a sensor hooked up, so I'm not sure where it's getting that information yet. But anyway, this would be where the information on the 2 zone would be displayed. So this is necessary so the app on the phone can communicate with the 2-zone. It does so via this system. So that's why I have it here in the garage. I've got it plugged into AC so it doesn't run batteries down. And it's got a great range. So the signal range it has is pretty spectacular. Again, there in the garage, and if we pan around all the way, where's my finger? All the way over there. It's the top of the blueberry bushes right there. So I think that's about 130, 140 feet. So that's doing fine communicating. So I use the app to turn the valves on or off, or have something programmed in the app. And I'll show you the app here in a second. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is test my water pressure that we're getting from the tank. And so I've got my old water pressure gauge here. And let's just make sure it's functioning properly. It's saying 58 pounds, and I think that's a little inflated. Okay, so Kelly is working in her garden, so I'm not going to ask her to come help me here. So what I'm going to do, and I've got a lot of air in this line, I'm going to put pressure gauge right here. Good night. It was an act of Congress to get that stupid thing on there. All right. All right, now to go all the way up there and turn the tank valve on. But we're going to cheat. Hello. You know, as soon as I walk up there, it's going to start running all that water out. The old clogged hole. I had a nickel for every time. All right, let's burp it again. A lot of pressure. That's reading about 16 pounds. Wouldn't that be nice? All right. So let's do this. Nice. So definitely have enough pressure to do that. The systems I've used in the past, as many, many years ago, they didn't have enough pressure when it went to shut off that it would actually stop and it would just drain all the water out of my tank. This actually is shutting off, not a single drip out of there. That's excellent. Okay, so this is my third attempt at doing this. I switched to the GoPro and I deleted some media off the GoPro, which means I had to get off the internet and go to the GoPro internet, and I couldn't figure out why things weren't working, so I finally figured it out. Holy moly. All right, so we're going to open up the RainPoint app, and what we have here are all the systems that have been utilized here at the house. There's my solar water pump that I gave to Mom, and the sensor and the hub. So those three show offline because they're obviously an hour away. But here's what we have online. This is the the little brain system in there in the garage that has a display and everything, and it's functioning. And then here's left channel, right channel, or a left port and right port of the automatic valve here. So if I go into, let's go into right, and you can see here it's showing last water usage 0 because I haven't used that one yet. I can set a plan, I can chart my water, I can actually do intervals where it would come on and off at multiple, with little spurts in between, or I can just do straight up irrigation. So that's what we'll do here. The minimum is 1 minute. So I'm going to go to 1 minute. I'm going to confirm. And you can see this little display, it's counting down. And there we go. So what's really neat, it takes a second because I had to walk to the garage and back to check my connection when I did my first test. So it actually shows the amount of water used by the system based upon, it's not based upon any time or water interval, it's actually based on metering, which is pretty cool. So it's metering that water, and zone 2 will show up here in a second. And it actually shows on the display back in the garage as well. So I don't have to walk, well, I don't have to walk anywhere. I always can just open the app. So I'm going to hook up my soaker hoses now. Just a little knot here. Man, you want to see some garbage? I think my soaker hoses are a little bit worse for wear. Right at the top, too. I was able to get, with one section, I was able to get all of them but this one blueberry bush wrapped up. So I'll need to get this repaired. Okay, so I went ahead and set it. So today is... today's the 15th, so I went ahead and set it to run on at 1900 hours, which is what? That's 7 o'clock p.m. I want it to run for a half hour, and it's going to do that every day. So we'll see. I'll come back and check on it tomorrow evening, see how it goes, and I'm going to get my other soaker hose fixed so I can, or just get a new one, so I can get that last blueberry bush. Okay, so I got a little overzealous since the last scene. Been several days, and you can look at the chart here. I added an extra section of soaker hose, and was more diligent wrapping it around the tree, or the base of the blueberry bushes, so we get good coverage. And in doing so, since my soaker hoses are all old, I cracked them and didn't realize I cracked them. So they had some pretty big holes in them. This thing ran for an hour. I set it to run for an hour thinking I need about 14, 15 gallons. And running for a complete hour with all those holes in it ran 122 gallons out. So needless to say, the blueberry plants were watered pretty well that night. So fast forward a couple days, I've had to order some new soaker hoses. So I'm going to swap those out real quick. And then I had to fill up the tank again too. So we'll give these a test drive, see how they go. And catch you guys here in a second. All right, so I got my hose hooked up here. Let's give it a run. I don't know if these things fill up with air or not, since they're perforated. I wouldn't think. Hello. Nowhere. It's going to take a little bit to fill up with water. So I need to factor that into my time, I believe, if it's going to take a while for it to pressurize. There's some water dripping out now. Okay, so we're getting good water flow there in that test. So I'm going to set this to run for an hour this evening, and we'll come back and see what kind of gallon usage, water usage we had in that 1 hour. Stay tuned. Okay, so last night I ran it for an hour with the new soaker hoses and got at just a little over 14 gallons use. So that's what I'm going to stick with right now and just see how that goes. I kind of poked around on the ground a little bit yesterday and it was just the slightest bit damp. Now we're in like day 17 of zero rain, so the ground is really, really dry. Supposed to get some rain tomorrow. Hopefully that'll happen. It's actually running right now, so it's the next evening, and I've got it kicked off to run from 7:30 to 8:30. So it's actually running right now. It's about 15 minutes in, and on my way up here, I stopped to look, and the little blinking light is flashing, so that lets me know it's running. And of course, the app that's on the phone also lets me know that as well. So I'm going to put this in. Where'd you guys go? So I'm going to put this in the success category with an asterisk by it. Obviously, the transporting of water up here isn't as efficient as if there was rain catchment. So we're going to work on that. Now, somebody might be saying, hey, don't you have the boys' treehouse behind you that you could do rain catchment on? I could, but that treehouse is kind of holding on by a thread. It needs to come down. It's not stable up there, so I wouldn't want to be up there putting gutters on it. And it's a double pitch roof, so it's 2 gutters, all that. What I'd like to do, I mean, it probably won't happen this year, but what I'd like to do is maybe somewhere right here in this area, build a firewood rack. And that firewood rack, I don't burn a lot of firewood, but I'd like to have that as a backup. We have the capability of burning firewood in the house and in the workshop. So if we'd have a long stretch of no power and didn't want to run the Jennies that long, then be able to burn wood for heat in the wintertime. And of course, single sloped roof, gutter, put it right over here, put it in there, and that would take care of that. Well, I'm going to link below to the RainPoint system if you're interested in that. Link to their site and, of course, any specials they have going on at the time of this video coming out. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Like I said, this is my second RainPoint product, and I'm very satisfied with it. Very pleased with the quality, how it works, communication, how it all syncs up. App seems to be solid, so it seems to be in good shape. Well, the next step, of course, is to get some netting over the blueberry bushes before the birds eat all of them. So that'll be our next task. I don't know if I'll do a video about that. That's not very exciting. But I've got to build some sort of hoops to keep the netting suspended because the blueberry bushes have gotten a lot taller since the last time I had them netted. But that'll be our next challenge. All right. Well, I pray everyone have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.